Okay, so you want to own a barber shop or a hair salon. Chairs filled all day, scissors buzzing, clients walking out looking sharp, appointments booked solid for weeks. It's a recession-proof service people need no matter what the economy does. You build a clientele, maybe franchise the concept, scale to multiple locations. Sounds like the perfect business. And honestly, from the outside, it really does look that way. But here is what people who actually invest in this business know, and what most people watching Instagram reels of six-figure barbers never tell you. A barber shop and a hair salon are not the same business with different names. They are fundamentally different economic models with different capital requirements, different margin structures, different labor dynamics, and completely different paths to profitability. The revenue per client is real. The chair rental complications are real, in ways that most people never see coming. Let's start at the beginning. When most people think about the hair industry, they lump everything together. Barbershops, hair salons, beauty parlors, it all looks like the same thing. Someone cutting hair and collecting money. But the economics could not be more different. A traditional barbershop focuses primarily on men's haircutting and grooming services. The average service time is 20 to 35 minutes. The average ticket is $25 to $45 depending on the market. The business model is built on volume, high throughput, quick turnover, minimal product usage, and repeat customers coming back every 2 to 4 weeks. A full-service hair salon, on the other hand, serves primarily women, though increasingly both genders, and offers a much broader menu of services. Cuts, color, highlights, balayage, keratin treatments, extensions, blowouts, perms, styling for events. The average service time is 60 to 180 minutes. The average ticket is $85 to $250 or significantly more for complex color work and extensions. The business model is built on higher transaction values, longer appointments, significant product usage, and clients returning every 6 to 12 weeks. Those differences in service time, ticket price, and visit frequency create completely different financial structures. A barber can serve 12 to 18 clients in an 8-hour day. A salon stylist doing color work might serve only 3 to 5 clients in the same time frame. The revenue per day can be comparable, but the cost structures, labor models, and capital requirements are radically different. Here is something that surprises people when they first research this industry. There are 2 completely different ownership models, and choosing the wrong one for your situation can be financially disastrous. The traditional commission-based salon model, where the owner employs stylists or barbers as W-2 employees and pays them a percentage, typically 40% to 50%, of the revenue they generate. The owner keeps the rest to cover rent, utilities, products, marketing, and profit. And the booth rental or chair rental model, where independent stylists or barbers rent space from the salon or shop owner, typically paying $150 to $450 per week depending on location and amenities. The stylist keeps 100% of their service revenue and tips, buys their own products, sets their own prices, and operates as an independent contractor. The owner's only revenue is the rental income. These 2 models produce completely different financial outcomes for the owner, and we will break down both in detail. Let's talk about what it actually costs to open each type of business from scratch. Starting with a traditional men's barber shop. You need a space, typically 800 to 1,200 square feet is sufficient for 4 to 6 barber chairs. You want to be in a visible location with good foot traffic and easy parking. A strip mall location, a downtown storefront, or a spot near complementary businesses like gyms, coffee shops, or men's clothing stores. Rent varies wildly by market, but in a mid-tier suburban location, expect $2,000 to $4,500 per month for a suitable space. In a major metro area, that could jump to $5,000 to $8,000 or more. You are signing a commercial lease, typically 3 to 5 years with personal guarantees. That lease is a fixed cost that runs whether you have clients or not. Build-out costs for a barbershop are relatively modest compared to other retail concepts. You need plumbing rough-in for 4 to 6 sinks, electrical outlets at each station, proper lighting, flooring that can handle hair clippings and chemical exposure, and a small waiting area. A basic but professional build-out typically runs $25,000 to $60,000 depending on the condition of the space and how much demolition and reconstruction is required. Equipment for a barber shop is straightforward but adds up quickly. Each barber station needs a hydraulic barber chair, for $100 to $1,200 per chair depending on quality. A styling station with mirror and storage, $300 to $800. A shampoo bowl and chair, $500 to $1,500 per unit. Professional clippers, trimmers, shears, and combs for each station, $400 to $800 per barber. Sterilization equipment, UV sanitizers, and disinfectant solutions to meet health code requirements, $800 to $1,500 total. Add waiting area furniture, a point-of-sale system with appointment scheduling software, initial inventory of towels and capes, retail products for resale, signage, and decor, and you are looking at total equipment and furnishing costs of $18,000 to $35,000 for a 4 to 6 chair shop. Add business licensing, insurance deposits, initial marketing, and working capital to cover the first few months of expenses before revenue ramps up, and the total capital requirement to open a small independent barbershop ranges from approximately $60,000 to $125,000. Now let's compare that to opening a full-service hair salon. You need significantly more space, typically 1,200 to 2,000 square feet for 6 to 10 styling stations plus color processing areas, shampoo stations, and a reception area. Rent in a comparable location runs $3,500 to $7,000 per month for a mid-market location, or $6,000 to $12,000 plus in a high-end urban area. Build-out costs for a salon are substantially higher. You need extensive plumbing for 8 to 12 shampoo bowls and sinks, specialized ventilation systems to handle chemical fumes from color and perm solutions, proper drainage for chemical waste, salon-grade flooring, and significantly more sophisticated lighting, both ambient and task lighting at each station. A proper salon build-out typically runs $75,000 to $150,000 or more depending on the space and the level of finish. Equipment costs are also much higher. Salon-quality styling chairs run $600 to $2,000 each. High-end styling stations with storage for color products and tools cost $800 to $1,800 per station. Shampoo bowls with adjustable chairs run $800 to $2,500 per unit. Professional-grade hair dryers, both handheld and overhead dryer stations, $300 to $800 each. Color processing equipment, including color bowls, brushes, foil, and application tools for each station, $400 to $900 per station. Then comes the product inventory, and this is where salons differ dramatically from barbershops. A salon needs a full backbar inventory of professional color lines, often carrying multiple brands. Redken, Wella, Schwarzkopf, L'Oreal Professional, each line requiring dozens of shades and developer levels. That initial color inventory alone can run $8,000 to $18,000. Add shampoos, conditioners, styling products, treatment products, both for in-service use and retail sales, and you are adding another $6,000 to $12,000. Total equipment, furnishings, and initial inventory for a mid-sized salon typically runs $90,000 to $180,000. Add the build-out costs, licenses, insurance, initial marketing, and working capital, and the total investment to open a full-service salon ranges from approximately $200,000 to $400,000, roughly 3 to 4 times the cost of opening a comparable barbershop. That capital difference is the first major decision point. A barbershop has a lower barrier to entry, which means more competition and more people can enter the market. A salon requires substantially more capital, which creates a higher barrier but also potentially higher revenue per client. Now let's talk about the revenue side, starting with the barbershop. A skilled barber working full-time can realistically serve 12 to 15 clients per day, 5 to 6 days per week. At an average ticket of $35 per haircut, that is $420 to $525 per day, or roughly $2,100 to $2,625 per week per barber. Across 50 working weeks, accounting for vacation and slow periods, that is $105,000 to $131,000 in annual revenue per barber chair. A 4-chair barber shop with all chairs consistently productive generates approximately $420,000 to $525,000 in annual revenue. But here is the reality. Not all chairs are productive all the time. One chair might be occupied by the owner who is also cutting hair. Another might be staffed by a newer barber still building clientele. A third might sit empty during slow midweek periods. Realistically, a 4-chair shop operating at 70% to 80% capacity generates closer to $295,000 to $420,000 in annual revenue. Now the salon side. A productive salon stylist doing a mix of cuts and color can generate $800 to $1,400 per day depending on the service mix and pricing. A stylist doing 3 color services at an average of $180 each plus 1 cut at $75 generates $615 in a day. Another day with 2 highlight services at $220 each, 1 cut and style at $95, and a blowout at $45 generates $580. Averaged across a full week, a productive stylist generates $3,500 to $6,000 per week, or roughly $175,000 to $300,000 annually per chair. A 6-chair salon operating at 65% to 75% capacity generates approximately $680,000 to $1.35 million in annual revenue. The revenue per square foot and revenue per chair are both substantially higher than a barber shop, but the cost structure is also dramatically different. Let's break down the expense side for a commission-based barber shop first. Labor is the single largest expense. If you are paying barbers 45% to 50% commission on the revenue they generate, and your shop does $350,000 in annual service revenue, you are paying $157,500 to $175,000 in barber compensation. Add payroll taxes, workers' compensation insurance, and any benefits, and total labor costs run 50% to 55% of revenue. Rent and occupancy costs, including utilities, property insurance, and maintenance, typically run 12% to 18% of revenue, or roughly $42,000 to $63,000 annually on a shop doing $350,000. Supplies and products, clippers, blades, sanitizers, shampoos, styling products, run relatively low in a barber shop, typically 3% to 5% of revenue, or about $10,500 to $17,500 annually. Marketing and advertising, crucial for attracting new clients, typically runs 3% to 6% of revenue, or $10,500 to $21,000. Professional fees, licensing, insurance, point-of-sale software subscriptions, and administrative costs add another 4% to 6%, roughly $14,000 to $21,000. When you add it all up, a commission-based barber shop typically operates with total expenses of 72% to 85% of revenue. On $350,000 in revenue, that leaves an operating profit of $52,500 to $98,000 before the owner pays themselves for the time they spend managing the business or cutting hair themselves. If the owner is also working behind a chair generating $105,000 of that revenue personally, their total compensation, personal production plus business profit, might be $90,000 to $130,000. That is a respectable income for a working owner-operator, but it is not passive, and it requires working 45 to 55 hours per week, 6 days a week in most cases. Now compare that to the commission-based salon model. Labor costs are similar in percentage terms but much higher in absolute dollars. On $900,000 in annual revenue, paying stylists 45% to 50% commission means $405,000 to $450,000 in stylist compensation, plus payroll taxes and benefits bringing total labor costs to 50% to 56% of revenue. But here is where salons differ dramatically. Product costs. A barber shop uses minimal product per service, maybe 50 cents to $2 worth of shampoo, styling product, and sanitizer per client. A salon doing color work uses $8 to $25 in product per color service, sometimes significantly more for complex techniques or long hair. Across all services, product cost of goods sold in a salon typically runs 8% to 12% of revenue. On $900,000 in revenue, that is $72,000 to $108,000 annually just in consumed product. Rent and occupancy costs run slightly higher as a percentage because of the larger space and higher utility usage from chemical processing and more extensive equipment. Expect 13% to 19% of revenue, or $117,000 to $171,000 annually. Marketing, professional fees, software, and administrative costs run similarly to a barber shop on a percentage basis but higher in absolute dollars. Total operating expenses at a well-run commission-based salon typically run 78% to 88% of revenue. On $900,000 in revenue, that leaves an operating profit of $108,000 to $198,000. Again, if the owner is also working behind a chair, their total compensation might be $180,000 to $280,000, significantly higher than a barbershop owner, but requiring a much larger initial investment and more complex operations. Now let's talk about the booth rental model, which has become increasingly popular over the past decade and completely changes the economics. In a booth rental or chair rental barbershop, the owner is essentially a landlord. You rent out each chair to an independent barber for a fixed weekly or monthly fee. The barber operates as a 1099 independent contractor, keeps all their service revenue and tips, buys their own supplies, sets their own hours and prices, and manages their own client relationships. A typical booth rental fee in a barbershop runs $150 to $300 per week per chair depending on location, amenities, and what is included. In high-cost urban markets, it can reach $350 to $500 per week. Let's assume you own a 4-chair barbershop and rent out all 4 chairs at an average of $225 per week. That is $900 per week, or approximately $46,800 per year in rental income. Your expenses as the owner are dramatically lower. You are still paying rent, utilities, insurance, and maintaining the space and equipment, but you have zero labor costs, minimal product costs since the renters buy their own, and significantly lower administrative burden. Total expenses might run $40,000 to $55,000 annually. Your net profit as the owner is $0 to $6,800 per year if you rent out only the chairs and do not work in the business yourself. That math does not work unless you also occupy one of the chairs yourself and generate personal production income. If you work one chair and generate $110,000 in personal revenue while collecting $35,100 in rent from 3 other chairs, your total income is $145,100 minus your proportional share of expenses, roughly $12,000 to $15,000, leaving you with $130,000 to $133,000 in total income. That is comparable to the commission model but with far less management headache. The salon booth rental model works similarly but with higher rental rates. Salon suites typically rent for $250 to $500 per week, sometimes $600 plus in premium locations. A 6-chair salon renting all chairs at an average of $375 per week generates $117,000 annually in rental income. After expenses of $65,000 to $85,000, the owner nets $32,000 to $52,000 if they do not work in the business, or significantly more if they also rent a chair to themselves and generate personal production. Here is the trade-off that most people do not see until they are inside the business. The commission model gives you control. You set the prices, the hours, the service standards, the branding, the marketing message. You build a cohesive business with a unified culture. But you also absorb all the risk. If a stylist quits, you lose their revenue but still have to pay the rent. The booth rental model minimizes risk and management burden. Your income is predictable and mostly passive, but you give up control. Each renter operates independently. They set their own prices, which might undercut yours. They control their own schedules, which might leave the shop looking empty and unprofessional during key hours. They manage their own client relationships, and if they leave, they take those clients with them. You are collecting rent, not building enterprise value. Let's talk about client retention, the metric that determines whether you build a sustainable business or constantly chase new customers. In the barbershop business, client loyalty is extremely strong but tied to the individual barber, not the shop. A skilled barber with a solid book of clients can expect 60% to 75% of clients to return regularly every 2 to 4 weeks. But if that barber leaves and goes to a different shop, 70% to 85% of their clients will follow them. This creates a fundamental risk for commission-based shop owners. You invest in marketing to attract clients. Those clients bond with a barber. That barber gets recruited by a competitor or opens their own shop. The clients leave with the barber. You are left starting over. This dynamic is why so many barbershops and salons eventually shift to the booth rental model. If you cannot retain the clients when stylists leave, you might as well collect rent and minimize your risk. Salons face the same dynamic but even more intensely. Color clients are especially loyal to their stylist. A client who has been getting their color done by the same stylist for 2 years will follow that stylist almost anywhere. Salon owners try to mitigate this by creating strong brand identities, offering amenities and experiences that independents cannot match, and sometimes using non-compete agreements, though these are increasingly difficult to enforce. Here is a cost that catches new owners completely off guard: product waste and theft. In a commission-based salon, stylists do not pay for the color and products they use. That creates an incentive problem. A stylist might overapply product, use premium products when mid-tier would work, or be careless about waste. Industry studies suggest that product waste in commission salons runs 8% to 15% of total product cost. On $90,000 in annual product spend, that is $7,200 to $13,500 literally going down the drain. Outright theft is less common but not rare. A stylist takes home bottles of retail product for personal use or gives them to friends. Over a year, that can add up to thousands of dollars. Booth rental eliminates this problem entirely because each stylist buys and manages their own inventory. Let's talk about the regulatory environment. Both barbershops and salons are heavily regulated at the state and local level. Every barber and stylist must be licensed, which requires completing a state-approved training program, typically 1,000 to 1,500 hours, and passing a written and practical exam. The business itself must be licensed and is subject to regular health and safety inspections. Inspectors check for proper sanitation, disinfection of tools, proper ventilation, chemical storage, and compliance with building and fire codes. A single failed inspection can result in fines, mandatory corrective actions, or, in extreme cases, temporary closure. Maintaining compliance requires constant attention to detail, regular equipment maintenance, and thorough staff training. Insurance is another significant cost. General liability insurance for a barbershop or salon runs $1,200 to $2,500 annually depending on size and location. If you have employees, workers' compensation insurance is required in most states and can run $3,000 to $8,000 annually depending on payroll size. Professional liability insurance, covering claims of damage to clients' hair or skin, adds another $800 to $1,500 annually. Here is what actually happens day to day when you own and operate a commission-based barbershop or salon. You arrive early to open, often before 8 a.m. You are checking that the space is clean, that stations are set up properly, that the stylists or barbers who open with you are on time. You are managing the appointment book, handling walk-ins, answering phone calls, responding to online booking requests. You are dealing with supply issues. You are running low on a specific color formula and need to place an emergency order. A clipper broke and needs immediate replacement. You are out of a popular retail product and clients are asking for it. You are managing interpersonal conflicts among staff. One stylist is upset because another is taking longer appointments and making her run behind schedule. A barber is frustrated because a client left a bad online review over a misunderstanding. You are monitoring financial performance, tracking each stylist's productivity, identifying who is underperforming and needs coaching or potentially needs to be let go. You are handling marketing, posting on Instagram, responding to reviews, running promotions to fill slow periods. You are staying late to close, cleaning up, counting cash, reconciling the day's transactions, preparing the bank deposit. You are not sitting in an office collecting passive income. You are working in a service business that requires constant attention, people management, and operational execution. The owners who succeed are those who genuinely enjoy the work, the client interaction, the creativity, the community aspect. The ones who fail are those who thought they were buying a cash flow asset and discovered they bought a job. Let's run the numbers two ways. Best case. You open a 6-chair salon in a growing suburban market with strong demographics. You invest $275,000 total, financing $175,000 and putting down $100,000 in equity. Your location benefits from excellent visibility, easy parking, and proximity to complementary businesses. Your salon ramps up quickly. Within 18 months, you are running at 75% capacity with skilled stylists generating an average of $215,000 per chair annually. Total revenue $1.29 million. You operate efficiently, keeping total expenses at 80% of revenue. Your operating profit is $258,000. After annual debt service of $28,000, you are netting $230,000. You work behind a chair yourself, so $160,000 of that is personal production and $70,000 is business profit. Your total compensation is $230,000, and you recover your initial equity investment in roughly 3.5 years. Realistic case. You open a 4-chair barbershop in a decent but competitive location. You invest $95,000 total, financing $45,000 and putting down $50,000. Competition is heavier than expected. A national chain barbershop opens 1 mile away 6 months after you do, offering $15 haircuts versus your $32 average. Your shop runs at 65% capacity. Revenue stabilizes at $295,000 annually. Operating expenses run at 83% of revenue because your rent is higher than planned and you had unexpected equipment replacements. Operating profit is $50,000. After debt service of $7,200 annually, you net $42,800. But you are also working full-time behind a chair, generating $95,000 of that revenue personally. Your effective total compensation is around $80,000 to $90,000 for 50-plus hours per week, 6 days a week. The difference between those outcomes is not the business model. It is location quality, competitive timing, the skill level of the stylists or barbers you hire or rent to, and your ability to market effectively and build a brand that clients prefer over alternatives. The U.S. hair care services industry generates approximately $47 billion in annual revenue across roughly 950,000 individual establishments. The industry is extremely fragmented. The largest chains, Great Clips, Supercuts, Sport Clips, and Fantastic Sam's, represent only about 15% of total locations. The remaining 85% are independent single-location shops or small multi-location operators. That fragmentation means there are low barriers to competition. Anyone with a license and some startup capital can open a shop. But it also means there is room for differentiation, for building a brand, a unique experience, a loyal client base that values quality and relationship over price and convenience. The owners who build sustainable, profitable businesses are those who choose the right model for their skills and goals, who master marketing and client retention, who hire or rent to skilled professionals and create an environment those professionals want to stay in, and who understand that this is fundamentally a relationship business where trust, consistency, and skill matter more than almost anything else. The owners who struggle are those who underestimate the capital requirements, overestimate the passive income potential, choose poor locations, fail to differentiate in crowded markets, or cannot manage the people and operational complexity that comes with running a service business. The scissors cut the hair. They do not run the business.